Hello, welcome to Business Hub, your one-stop business mart where we bridge the gap between business owners and their target market. My name is Omobolanle Adeshui, and today on Business Hub, we would be going into the yummy world of baking. Okay, so you'll be learning all about baking, cakes, everything that has to do with baking this evening. And I have someone who would be taking us through all that we need to know from the world of baking. And his name is Gboyega Asenuga, CEO Sugar Smith Cakes. Good evening, Gboyega.
Good evening.
So tell us, what does it mean to be a baker?
Well, in as regards to cakes, when you say baker, because when you say baker, you can.
Yeah.
Baker, definitely we're talking about cakes. So definitely we're talking about actually more than mixing flour, sugar, butter, and all that. You have to be creative. You understand? There must be something about you are bringing into the industry.
So what made you go into this industry?
Well, for me, it all started by my valley experience of waiting for admission. I used to have a sister who is now in the UK who used to bake, but eventually when he left, I got admission. I realized I already knew this thing, so I could learn more about it and support myself financially. That was the starting point.
So how has it been so far? How long have you been doing this now?
Well, this is almost 2 decades now.
20 years.
Almost. Not
Almost
yet,
20 years.
Yes, it is, but officially thereabout, yeah.
So how has it been?
Yeah, it's been good. I'm not looking for a job. Of course, there was a time when you, as a guy, you're thinking, is cake baking not for women? But now, of course, you see so many guys into it. You understand?
What do you think
So,
happened?
happen as
Before it was the 40 for women, a place where you find women baking, cooking, anything culinary, it was women. But now you find men doing everything.
Of course, the world is changing, culture is changing, everything is changing. So even in the business world, you realize that people are beginning to embrace a whole lot of things.
So did you experience that challenge of what's a man doing baking
Of course.
back then?
Of course, I did. In fact, there is a particular experience I always recount.
Okay.
I went to visit a friend and whose guidance happens to be a pastor, you understand, and I could overheard him the moment she said that this is Sugar Smith, my friend, and the man was whispering and he was saying like a guy in a woman's kind of business, you understand. But as at that time, I'd already outgrown the trouble of should I not, and all that. So I just laughed, you understand. But of course, there was that issue of a man's world or a woman's world. But now you realize that there is a lot of.
There's no longer any war.
Exactly. As long as it's a room for you to explore, a room for you to exhibit your talent and abilities and all that.
So you talked about creativity earlier on. What are some of the places or the things you get your inspiration from? How do you get your creative ideas?
Well, the creative ideas actually do with the environment at large, you understand. Well, now, when you say environment at large, you're looking at an individual, the professional environment, you're looking at the seasonal environment, you get inspiration, you're looking at
Seasonal. How do you get inspiration from?
For Christmas,
Okay,
for example, Valentine, for example, when you're thinking Valentine, you're thinking of love shape, kind of the red and all those kind of things, you understand. Then, of course, the natural world, you're looking at fabrics, you're looking at plants, you're looking at animals. And don't be surprised if I take your picture and someday probably you see your back coming out as cake. So the inspiration is all in the environment.
So you talked about the challenge of that was back then, though, the challenge of people asking that what is a man doing in the business that is made for women. But what are some of the other challenges you experienced for those who might be thinking of coming into this business?
Well, especially in an African setting, or maybe it's more with Nigerian, of course, you have to deal with the family and friends. You understand, people. There's a saying that business succeed when family and friends pay for services rendered, of course. So you have to be wise. You understand that, dealing with that, so you don't lose your friend. At the same time, you don't
lose your business.
Lose the business. You understand. And of course, there is also a basic principle that says any business that stays up to 5 years in existence is likely
Going
has the
to
likely
survive.
to survive. You understand? So if you can deal with all that, of course, there is also the aspect of finances and all that, challenges and all that. So
How were you able to deal with the issue of finance and also with family and friends? Because of course that there are times they will just am I not your brother? Am I not your friend? I took care of you when you were growing up. You are not charging me for baking something. How were you able to handle that?
well, that comes with it comes with patience, and of course, it also comes with wisdom. Then, of course, it also comes with the kinds of people around you.
Okay.
Let me say, probably I've been fortunate to have people, understanding people around me. For example, my siblings. I don't even think. What if I told you that when I was doing my immediate older brother's wedding cake, of course, they pay some amount, you understand, but some persons will expect, okay, just buy the ingredients. Just it can be frustrating actually when you have people just expect you to foot the bills and do the cake and all that, and some would not even mind.
So that's your own contribution to the wedding now.
You understand? Yeah, fine, we still get to do a lot of that at some point, but especially when you are blessed with on the understanding people around you, then you won't have much of that. But of course, I know that exists. I experience a bit of that, especially from for friends. You understand? But of course, boldness is another part of it. When you're wise and you're bold, you know what you're doing. You know how to go about it. You stand your ground, and before you know it, you sometimes you hear people say. Some friends say things like, he's stingy, he's this, he's that. You're just being a shrewd businessman, you understand. But with time, they get to accept
But of course, you also have to draw the line because some people are actually stingy.
But I can tell you, I'm not stingy. When you come around, you also know that that's not the case. You just have to draw the lines to know that, okay, this is a boundary as a businessman, and this is a boundary as a family person.
So, you've been baking for weddings and different ceremonies, I imagine.
Okay.
Now, do those people come to you with ideas, or you give them what you feel is befitting for the occasion?
Okay. Of course there are different categories of customers. Some comes with a blank mind. They tell you, okay, my wedding is coming. Of course you have to ask the right set of questions. You won't just, it will be unwise of you to just start acting, oh, I know what you need, I'll give you 3-step this. No, you ask the right set of questions. Once you ask the right set of questions and you know that they don't know what they want, then you pump in ideas, you understand. Or for example, if I ask, okay, what do you have in mind? The person has no wedding team in mind, has no all that in mind. By the time you ask 1 or 2 questions about the person, about the husband, about the environment, you or sometimes another thing you do is speak in pictures. You just ask the person, okay, show me maybe from the internet the at least three kinds of cakes you would like to have.
Okay.
And you always notice that one thing is common to all those 3. So you know, okay, this person maybe is a color blocking kind of person, or is a simple, gorgeous
plain
kind of person,
colors,
or is a flowery kind of person. So in that case, it's easy for you to design something for that person. You understand? So you won't just start saying, okay, I'll design. Maybe you've always had the design in mind. I'll make it for my next customer. You just push it. You'll be surprised. You're speaking a language the person will not appreciate.
and then you have the case of what I ordered and what I got.
Exactly.
So why does that happen? Because I imagine that for you to be a professional, then you understand that people have different preferences as against what you want for them. So if I come to you and I'm asking you to bake a kind of cake for me, some people they know that they cannot actually bake that kind of cake, but they just don't want to say no. They don't want to refuse the business, and then they say yes. And in the end, they give you a caricature of what you asked for.
Now, I think there are many aspects to that, why that happens. We get to see a lot of that, actually. One, you have a lot of mediocre. When you say mediocre, people really don't know how to go about things, no much experience. And because the environment permits it. And I will tell you why I said because the environment permits it.
Okay.
Then they go ahead. Now, if I know I don't have the prowess at putting up a particular cake, but you're not paying me much for it. Maybe probably I told you somebody else is charging you 80,000 naira, and this person is I'm charging you, let's say 20,000. I just want to use you to practice. I've never had to try I've never had to try that kind of cake before. So I will soft pedal on the pricing. I'll give you a ridiculous price. Even without confidence, I will give you a ridiculous price that will make you give me the job. Then of course I want to test myself and see if I could do that. And of course I also know I'm not going to show face on your wedding day, so I get it done, whatever I was.
But most times the baker has to be there to describe, oh, this cake is about love, the white is for purity,
but
the
I
red
can
is
tell
for...
you in those cases, like you mentioned, this is what I order, this is what I get. I can tell you, I can bet you that the baker
will not be there.
Not be anywhere to be found. You understand? So probably it's just something you've always you've seen people do it. You're thinking, okay, I should be able to do it, and I can tell you, I've been at some point where you're working on a cake or a particular piece and you are so scared, like, it's not looking like it. It's not looking like it. Am I going to get it right? But if you are experienced and you know what you're doing, it's just like when you are those days, you know, when you snap pictures, you have films in negatives. You remember those things? Negative exposure. It doesn't really look like you. That's what you get to see when you're working on a piece at time. But when you have the insight, the insights to what you're doing, and experience, you know that no, I will get there. You will get it. So it has to look like this before you get there. But someone who doesn't have the experience is even scared all along. No boldness. But of course, because you are stuck, and I can tell you what the person can feel as at that point in time is like, I hope I can run away.
So what are you supposed to do at that point where you're not yet an expert? You don't yet, because of course you wouldn't know everything at once.
There is nothing you can do at that point. The first question, the first thing that matters is the fact that you shouldn't have not even gotten yourself to that point in the first place.
So you refuse the business?
I always say, for example, now what you're asking me is, you cannot fly. Why go on Cocoa House to jump? Do you understand? So go get yourself ready, get all you need, then come back to the business. That's where training comes in. You understand?
Did you get trained, or was it just the one you got from your sister?
Yes, of course I got trained.
You went for a professional?
Yes, I put up with a woman as far back as 2002, 2003, and I started handling all that.
I think that's where people miss it, don't you think?
That's where a lot of people... I can tell you that training don't even stop. As at last year, at least myself, I went for about 3 different training. I'm already eyeing some
other
training for myself this year, you understand? So training is a lifelong thing. You don't stop. The moment you stop, especially in our industry, you lose your
relevance.
Your relevance in the industry.
So what's your signature?
Well, my signature is the kind of creativity we have. You talk about, there is this thing you talk about, graffiti defined cake. When you say graffiti defined cake, so it has to do with internal structure. I've come to understand that naturally I get to understand a lot of internal structure. When you say internal structure, what makes a cake stand like this or stands like that, apart from the average cake that is just sitting. I can tell you that, and there are bakers and there are bakers. Not every baker might be able to understand how to put a 10-step normal round cake, 10-step, 20-step together without them.
Wait, there are cakes of 20 steps?
Yes, you can make it as
okay, we'll continue. Let's take this break. It's getting more interesting by the minute. This is Business Help. We'll take a short break. Of course, you will would be seeing some pictures of some of the cakes, and also, the creativity put into all of it. We'll be back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. It's still Business Hub, your one-stop business smart, where we bridge the gap between business owners and their target market. And I still have with me in the studio Gboyega Asenuga, CEO, Sugarsmith, talking to us about what it takes to be a baker. Now, you find out that in the process of baking, because I have a little idea, some cakes cave in. You have a particular shape in mind, but in the end, you find out that it's caving in the middle. What was the cause for this?
Yeah, well, for you to have said that, of course, you have definitely have some experience about cakes, a little
A
experience.
little,
I
very
always say
little.
it actually that in every home there is always somebody who knows how to bake. But the question is, what I know, what I can bake, can it, is it
Can
sellable?
it
Can I
fetch me
sell it?
money?
Can it fetch me money? That's where you now know, okay, maybe I need to go for more training. Of course, I started with my sister. I've done wedding cakes that I was, while I went with my sister, and of course we're sitting in the crowd, and the woman next to us took a piece of the cake, and we realized that a cake of less than 2 days was already spoiled. So of course the best I could do as at that time was to pretend like an average, you understand. So but when I got to school, eventually I got admission. Then I told myself I need more training. So the first thing I had to do before I launch into the business proper was to go for training. I met
Okay.
up with someone, and of course I learned a lot of basics and all that. So um, that's remember the question.
Why they cave in the cake?
Now, the a lot of things is responsible for the caving in. You understand? Now it could be the simplest of it could be that the oven door was opened when the cake is yet to set. Yes, of course. It's usually
Okay.
said that depending on the size of the cake and all that, baking has
So
to
how do
do.
you tell the length of time needed for a particular cake to be set?
That comes with experience. Comes first with training. Then of course comes with experience.
Experience,
Because if I
okay.
tell you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, what about the sizes, the different sizes of cakes and all that? You understand? So the timing might vary. You understand? But of course, because cake has to do with hot air in a compartment, you understand? So the mixture gets raised to a point when it's can stabilize on its own. So if at that point in time you open the oven door unnecessarily, or you bang it, or you yank it open, it can affect. That can happen. Another thing that can also result to that is has to do with your recipe, has to do with your mixture. For example,
Okay.
if there is too much liquid in your, of course, there must be a balancing between all the basic ingredients. So if the liquid is too much for that particular recipe, then when next you are doing that, you will definitely need to balance the liquid to dry ingredients and all that. That can also be responsible. Another thing that can also generally be responsible is there is this aspect where we talk about cake testing for readiness.
Okay.
Now, you've gone past that aspect where you can open the door. Then how do you know when the cake is ready? If the cake is not so cooked deep inside, and you bring it out, everything is looking balanced. By the time you bring it out and you leave it in the room at room temperature, by the time it's cooling down, it will cave in.
Goes down.
But another thing that can also be responsible for that is the aspect where we talk about cake testing for readiness. Now, of course, it traces to a point. There's a particular aspect where you'll be able to say, okay, I think this cake is ready, but that does not ensure it is ready. You need to go to another level where you look for another sign as a shrinking from the side. That is also a sign that it might be ready,
Okay.
but does not. But the last part where we always say is that you test through the center. You understand? There is a cake tester. You poke it in through the center. Of
Not
course,
with a knife.
No, well, some people get to use knife, but there is this thing that looks like a tiny metal. You understand?
Okay.
You know this thing that comes from your stove that looks like a
Oh,
tiny metal.
yes, yes.
It looks like that, and it has a ring. You understand?
Okay.
So once you poke it in through or if you have a wooden like your kebab stick,
Okay.
you can use that. You poke it through the center. If
center.
it comes out shining and clean, no stain of batter, then it means your cake is ready.
Home and dry.
So if you don't do all of that, or probably you go from, now what causes that? If you go from the last, testing through the center, when the cake is not yet stable, ready, right in your very eyes, the minute you poke it in, you see it
Fall.
and you see it fall. That's the word. It falls, and there is nothing you do to such a cake to make it come to make it rise again.
So
It's just like you puncture a balloon. So the hot air that is meant to trap and make the batter rise evenly is released. It goes out, and of course it falls.
So are there some things that are put in the mixture that makes a cake rise more than another mixture of cake?
Of course, cake would definitely, the recipe differs. Of course, they rise more than one. It has to do with the procedure. It has to do with basic ingredient, basically too. Of course, the basic one we all know is your baking powder. In some cakes, it's baking soda. But of course, in some cakes, it's just your water and your air, the way it's been mixed and trapped. You can even use warm water. Do you understand? So water can be used as a raising agent aside your baking powder and your baking soda.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So what are some of the things you need as a starter, someone who wants to start the business of baking? What are some of the basic things you need?
Well, the basic things you need are as long as you have access to an oven. And of course, when we say oven,
I remember they used to use stove back then.
Stove and pot, of
pots and all that.
I got to use that. In fact, that's a point when I already started business way back in Lagos. There was this 6-burner imported kind of oven. Then, of course, we couldn't afford the cylinder and the gas. I had to remove the gas panel. There's this slower door there. You understand? I had to remove the gas panel and replaced it with a tray of charcoal. So anytime I want to bake, I open the lower compartment, put in the charcoal.
But these days we even have gas cookers that come with ovens.
Yes, you have them also. So it's even easier these days.
So aside the oven?
Aside the oven, people get to use the pot. People get to use local oven. You can do your editing.
So it's okay to use all those other things?
It's not okay because there are levels. The kind of result I will get if I have a deck oven, imported oven, is not the same you will get when you're using the fabricated charcoal oven or local oven or kerosene oven. You cannot get. Now, let me take it from here. Those imported or the technologically up-to-date kind of ovens has been tested and approved. Every part of it, every part of the process has been tested and designed for baking.
Okay.
Baking has to do with the right amount of hot air in a compartment. So if you have a kind of oven that the heat is too much than needed, then you are in trouble. If the heat is not enough like you needed, so you're going to have more instead of cake, you understand? And so it has to do with the right kind of oven. You need the right kind of oven. But I can tell you, depending on your level of business, a lot of things can still be excused. You understand? Okay. But the moment you are already in the business and you just make sure you have the necessary things. So, of course, we're talking about your oven, you're talking about your baking pans, you're talking about a lot of bakers still get to mix with a hand mixer. But when you're...
There's a lot of energy.
You understand? I always tell my trainees that when you have, if I've been mixing with hands since then up till now, maybe by now I'll go bent and probably old, you understand? So you need there is a stage where you need to get an industrial mixer.
But when you're starting small, you can start with your hands.
The only issue with that, when you're starting small and you're starting with your hand, even if it's a 6,000 naira, 7,000, 10,000 naira hand mixer, I always advise you get. What that does is that there are some basic tools like your hand mixer, some little kind of oven, your digital scale. These are things that makes you look forward to the business. But if you start it too rough, a lot of us were die hard. I had to mix with hand. I had to do a lot of things because I was just sure that is what I want. But of course, I had to bring in some friends who said, this makes sense. They saw the glamour in the trade, you understand it. Say, okay, I want to learn. And by the time you bring them in, you ask them to mix the way I mix one day, then the following day, they will always give you one excuse. Mom, she sent me this. You won't see them again, you understand? So I learned from that. So I always tell my trainees, once you can get a mixer, you can get things that make you...
But in those days, I don't think there were mixers. It was the manual way.
There has always been mixers.
Oh, really? So how come a lot of people did it with the manual way?
You know what is something that is not meant for you? You will not look deeper. But once you're cut out for a particular thing, you will look deeper. Even I can tell you that then I had friends who were baking. When I have pocket money, I'm thinking what tool to buy, what gadget to buy, what this. When friends and other people they are okay to mix once in a while with their hands and use their money to buy wares and phones, you understand. But of course I wasn't looking in that direction.
Okay, so now I know there are different kinds of cakes, especially for some people who are allergic to some things. Some people are allergic to eggs. Some people are allergic to maybe cream or whatever it is. Do you make special cakes? Some people don't take chocolate. Do you make special cakes to suit some people's preferences?
Okay, yeah, we make special cakes. Let me say is relative in the sense that there are special and there are special. For example, there are LD foods, for example. Of course, very soon we're going to get into that, because there are some set of people who will not take margarine, who will not take butter, who will not take dairy and stuffs like that.
Like people watching their weight.
Watching their weight, yes, you understand. So what I can tell you, it can be complex when you have come up this way and you want to exchange that for the complex side of the healthy things and stuff like that. So it's another business on its own, you understand. So
you don't do that?
For now, we don't do LD.
Okay.
But it's something that you get to see us doing very soon.
Okay. But if you look at the world of cake baking, in different segments of the society, the fashion world is evolving. You check the hairdressing world, it's evolving. What do you think has evolved over the years in the world of cake baking?
One thing that the creativity that is the creativity in the industry seems to be taking another dimension. I can tell you now that gone are those days where you go to an average wedding and you expect to see a 3-step, 2-step, expect to see anything. Anything can happen. And now it's just like our entertainment industry. Everything looks like play now. So sometimes you get to an event, don't be surprised at what you see. You understand? So the sky is so large right now that anything can happen depending on who your client is. You understand? So if your creativity can match up with that of the client's demand, then you have it.
So do you provide training for upcoming bakers?
One thing you cannot take away from Sugarsmith is that, of course, we train.
You train others. So I'd just like you to give a final word to upcoming bakers, people who would want to come into this line of business.
Okay, what I would say to you out there is that the cake business is not meant for lazy people. It's not meant for, if all you see is the glamour, then I want you to also understand that there is a lot of work. But the good news is that the sky is so large. It's so large to welcome your creativity and as well as pay you back in good.
And this is where we'll leave it for today on Business Hub. Thank you so much, Gboyega Asenuga, CEO Sugarsmith Cakes. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, remember that you can watch the show again on YouTube, right there on the address on your screen, and then you'll be able to watch this over and over again as many times as you want to. My name is Omobolanle Adeshui. Thank you so much for being a part of the program again today. Bye for now.